There are no shortcuts to getting highly coveted press coverage for your brand, only smart cuts like the DIY PR project. Learn how to grow your brand's credibility with PR on a budget with me by your side. This program is your all-in-one membership with expert training, customizable templates, and a supportive community to cheer you on every step of the way. Join us and start growing your business with free publicity today. Sign up now at diy-pr.com. When we think about wellness, we think about the body. We think about our mindset. We even think about wellness in the forms of financial wellness, for example. But here's something that most of us don't think about until it's too late: legal wellness. It's one of the most powerful forms of self-protection and empowerment, especially for entrepreneurs. In this episode of Grow Your Wealth, attorney and law professor Danny Karon, aka Your Lovable Lawyer, breaks down how to become what he calls legally well and why it matters more than you think. From spotting red flags in contracts to understanding your rights, Danny delivers practical advice with clarity and heart. We also dive into his new book, Your Lovable Lawyer's Guide to Legal Wellness, and the real world legal tools you wish you had sooner. Here's Danny. Danny, it's great to see you today. Welcome to the Grow Your Wealth podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again.
Likewise. Okay, Danny, for those that are not familiar with you and your work with the Lovable Lawyer, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a lawyer by trade. I've been doing consumer work for like 35 years. And over that time, I've concluded that there's this, I'll call it societal bias against access to justice, where people who deserve it the most tend to get it the least, which means folks don't know that they have legal issues. Or if they detect them, they don't know what to do about them or can't answer them or solve them. Or if they think they have an idea what to do, don't have anybody to help implement a solution. They don't know how to find a lawyer. They can't understand a lawyer with the legalese and all. I mean, for crying out loud, we got our own language. So what's a person to do? So I took a look around kind of the daytime TV landscape, internet landscape, and I observed a couple of things. One is that there's a lot of, call it emotional wellness content out there, like Dr. Phil talking about how to be safe and sound in your mind and body. Mel Robbins too, for instance. There's also a lot of financial wellness content out there, like Jim Cramer, Susie Orman, talking about how to set up a 529 for your kids or a 401k for yourself. But where it came to that third essential wellness bucket, to my mind, it's legal, which, by the way, when it tips, it spills into the other two because you freak out and you go broke. There's nothing there but these exploitative, like courtroom dramas where they show up after things have fallen apart. So I wanted to kind of slide the dial back. Like if you go to the doctor for a physical to keep from getting sick, I wanted to give people the tools they needed to conduct a legal physical, to increase their legal aptitude, awareness, and accessibility so that they could keep out of these problems to begin with. And that's what spawned this whole Your Lovable Lawyer brand. I want to deliver this message of legal wellness to people to keep them safe and sound out there.
Ooh, I love that. So can you give us a simple legal wellness check then? In that case, like what questions should business owners be asking themselves about their business or their operations? Give us like just a couple of tips around that.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many, we'll call it evergreen topics that have been around and will be around forever, whether you're a business owner or just a consumer or a regular person walking down the street. So for instance, what do you do if you're in an auto accident? I suspect that not a lot of people know. Do you talk to the other side's insurance adjuster? No, you don't, because they will want to get you to say something to blame yourself. They'll try to get out of providing coverage. What do you do if your landlord leans on you? If you're a business owner or if you're just renting on campus? Like my son had a bunch of his fraternity brothers last year. They were renting a house. They didn't do the nicest job with the house. The landlord kicked them out, signed something that said, hey, listen, walk away, leave me the hell alone. I don't want to deal with you kids anymore. And they said, fine by us. About 3 weeks later, they get an invoice for $30,000 with a contractor's itemized list. And they freaked out. Called me. I took a look at the lease, the document that nobody ever reads, because either you click through it or you ignore it. We all know what that's like.
Yeah.
And all the answers we needed were in the lease to undo this demand. For instance, here's an example that derives right from that story. When the leasing agent was over, she saw a cat roaming around, and the lease says no pets. If there's a pet, it's a $150 a month penalty. So they added like 3 months of penalty for the cat, so an extra $450. I said, hey, listen, you don't know whose cat this was. You don't know how long the cat's been there. The cat might not have belonged to any of these guys. It might have been the cat's first day, might have been the cat's first minute. Where's your proof that it was there for 1 day, much less 3 months? You have the burden of proving your case if you're leaning on them for this $30,000, part of which included this $450. Where's the proof? By the time we were done with the back and forth, which wasn't much of a back and forth, the landlord walked away, didn't ask for anything. In fact, I said, you owe these guys $630. 3 weeks later, I checked on Zillow for fun to see what's going on with the property. The owner had listed it for $2 million. He renovated the whole thing and wanted my guys to underwrite the renovation project. These are legal wellness themes and concerns I think people need to keep in mind and to know that they can push back against. They don't have to have this victim mentality. Like if something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't, whether that's a business issue or a personal issue. So the list is really endless.
That's pretty shocking to me,
Yeah,
but also like, wow, it's like Danny, Superman going in there and saving the day. That's pretty incredible. And it leads me to believe and remember why so many folks sometimes feel that the law is intimidating. We're intimidated by the legal stuff. Why do you think that is the case for so many people? And how do you help people also shift that mindset? Because what I hear from you is like, there was a solution to the problem, and we really need to be empowered to know what those are before it becomes a problem, right?
Mm-hmm. You need to know that you are not the victim and that the law is accessible. Now, people are intimidated by or scared of or don't want to deal with lawyers, and for good reason. Trust me, I deal with them every day. I can't wait to get out of this business and pour myself exclusively into this legal wellness space where I'm helping real people without this go-between, like with a judge and a court and all this process. I just want to kind of get in there and help. And lawyers make it really, really tough because you know what? They bill by the hour and they buy the word and it takes time, and people have this really bad feeling about them. And I said a little while ago, we've got this legalese with the wherefores and the heretofores, and you can't even understand these folks. So what I tried to do was tone things down and make the process accessible to people. I mentioned legal accessibility. So if you take a look at my website, yourlovablelawyer.com, even the graphic, even the artwork and the logo is kind of frivolous and inviting and inclusive. It's kind of a throwback to like kind of a 70s Partridge Family, Gilligan's Island, Brady Bunch vibe when things were easier and happier and less stressful. And that's kind of what I want to bring to this process to let folks know that, hey, listen, it's actually something y'all can do. I want to deliver kind of a DIY law degree so that people know that they've got tools available in their toolbox, their legal toolbox to pull out if ever they need them. And there are so many opportunities for that, whether it is what to do in an auto accident, how to handle traffic court, what to do when your landlord leans on you, what to do when Visa throws in a secret charge, or T-Mobile or Verizon. I mean, it's on and on and on.
Yeah, and I noticed that you have chatted about exactly that legal toolbox. I know you've been featured on a ton of media from USA Today to CNN, the Daily Beast, and so forth. So great to see that you're even getting some great PR for legal wellness, because this is something that, like exactly as you said, there's a lot of thought leaders in the finance space that are talking about, financial wellness as you mentioned, and certainly there are sometimes financial implications to mistakes that we might make as business owners and the legalities around that. What are some of the legal basics that every business owner should have in place, even if they're just starting out?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm dealing with right now. It involves non-solicitation and non-compete clauses in employment contracts. How did it come to my mind? Well, my son just graduated college and he received a job offer and he got a job packet. And the packet had all the stuff that no normal person would understand. But you kind of might understand it if you actually read it and pay attention, because I know they don't want you to, but they kind of do want you to, because everybody ought to be on the same page. Your employer makes it a little bit challenging, but there's certain things that you have to bake into the process to cover all your bases. Doesn't mean it has to be incomprehensible, because I teach writing too. And one of my big themes is plain language and making writing accessible and readable to people so that they want to keep turning the page rather than turning it off.
Mm.
So if you're an employer and you want to have a non-solicitation or non-compete clause in your employment contract, and if you're an employee and that's what you're looking for, you need to ensure that it's suitable and appropriate, such as it can't be too broad in its geography, can't cover too many states or too many markets, can't be overbroad in its temporally overbroad, it can't be too long, it can't be 5 years. There are laws in different markets that in jurisdictions that control what a suitable and appropriate non-solicitation and non-compete clause have to say. And as an employer, you need to know that, and you need to really talk to employment counsel to make sure you fashion your onboarding documents the right way. Otherwise, if challenged, they might fall flat and you might not get, what you were expecting from your employee who just quit.
Mm.
Same thing concerns arbitration clauses. I mean, like every employment contract concern involves a mandatory arbitration clause, which says if you have a problem with us and it goes to, it's going to go to court. It can't go to litigation. It's got to go to private arbitration where it's cheaper, it's quicker. We think it's more fair. The employee would tell you it's not because the employer usually hires the arbitrator who's going to side with the employer. Otherwise, they don't get hired again. But these are conventions you can bake into your employment contracts that will hold up legally. The whole mandatory arbitration thing will for sure as a function of this Supreme Court case from 19 or maybe 2005 or something, Concepcion versus AT&T, which essentially legalized mandatory arbitration clauses in consumer and employment contracts. And these are concepts that you really need to channel through your employment counsel to make sure you have everything the right way, because you do not want to have somebody wriggle out of terms that you thoughtfully put before them because you didn't put them in the right format. It's just a mistake you can easily avoid.
Hey there, I want to invite you to join our Grow Your Wealth community over on Slack. It's a safe space to network and connect with podcast guests, entrepreneurs, and wellness minded pros just like you. Head to growyourwealthpodcast.com/community to join us. That's growyourwealthpodcast.com/community. I look forward to seeing you over there. So smart and easily avoid because it can sounds like cost you a lot of money as well
Oh,
too.
you're paying the lawyer and you're not getting anything for it. Do you want to be that person? No. Yeah.
I do not want
Hey,
to be
good
that
lawyer to do it the
person.
right way.
Absolutely. And I know non-competes in particular have been really big in the media lately. That being said, kind of on the flip side, so let's say you are somebody like me who provides services. And let's talk about contracts, right? Between, B2B businesses in this case, right? Having a solid contract in place. What about in those instances where you're like in my case, my livelihood is based on having clients, right? And a client wants you to not compete, right? Or take on similar types of businesses. Do you see this in your line of work? Like it's something that me and some fellow agency owners sometimes talk about. Like this was really big in the Mad Men era, but is kind of trickled off. Yet I don't know if a lot of businesses are protecting themselves in terms of the opportunity costs surrounding non-competes, whether to have them or not.
Well, I've not dealt with them in personally as it concerns my business because it doesn't suit me. I'm a law firm. That said, I don't do anything without talking to my lawyer first. I don't care how nominal the issue is because it's even the smallest issues spawn so many other issues. There's so many tributaries deriving from even the most seemingly benign issue.
Mm.
And I'll call up my lawyer with what I think is a quick and dirty question because I don't want to pay a lot. And it'll turn into an hour and a half discussion. And that's not a function of his wanting to bill. It's a function of his telling me all the different permutations and adaptations that derive from the one apparently simple problem I thought I had. Now, as it concerns non-competes, you really want to be careful. If a vendor you're doing a deal with is requiring you to not compete with their competition or not solicit their competition, I'd be suspicious of that because you know what? Your relationship with them is going to wind down. And if this promise survives your relationship, you could be out of business for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I've not seen that, and I don't know that a court would uphold it, but I know that if it were me, I wouldn't be happy about it.
Such a good point too to obviously seek legal counsel, but drilling down to those specific terms, it sounds like too, when we talk about legal wellness, we're not talking about concepts or anything fuzzy, right? Like we're talking about pretty cut and clear initiatives and things like that that are baked into whether it be our contracts or our negotiations. What are some of the things that entrepreneurs you would say really need to keep an eye towards, like in their contracts? We often say a factor like clear is kind. And where business owners are kind of struggling, right, is that sometimes we don't even understand the contracts that are that are asked of us to be signed. What are things to look out for to make sure to protect yourself?
I've seen that so many times, and I know you have too. You get a long, crippling contract, and you're like, you know what? And it's in a DocuSign, no less. They don't even read it. You're thrown right to the signature line. Like, flick, click, click, done off my desk. You don't even ask for the completed copy. You're like, you say you click no thanks. You just whatever. That's a terrible practice. Because believe me, somebody creating a contract isn't creating it with your best interest in mind.
Mm,
It's the opposite way around. And I think I think there are three real pillars of legal wellness. One of them is to avoid a victim mindset. We've talked
mhm,
about that a little bit. The second one is to ask questions and read your contracts. Like, look at my son's friends issue. They didn't read their contract. They didn't read it before they signed it. And they certainly didn't read it after they got in trouble. They sent it to me to read it, and I read it, and it was fine. But nobody reads their contracts. In fact, literally today, same,
mm,
these are guys in his fraternity. Okay. So it's a fraternity kind of issue. He's graduated, but I'm the chapter advisor. Why I volunteered for that, God knows. But I thought it was the right thing to do. And they owe some money. And the national organization wants four of the guys at the chapter to sign. I'm not sure what it is they're signing. This doesn't say promissory note, but just sign something attesting to owing the debt. And they're like freaked out. They don't want to put their names on it. So I emailed back and I said, they already said they're going to try to, pay the past due balance off. They don't want to sign this thing for fear that if the guys fall through, they'll be on the hook for the entire like 10 grand or whatever it is, which is a lot of money for four college kids, a lot of money for me.
yeah.
And they told me, oh no, it's only for auditing purposes. And, a lot of folks might say, oh, for auditing purposes, in that case, fine, let's go right ahead. I said, what the hell does for auditing purposes mean? So I wrote back, what's it mean? And she couldn't tell me. But it was just a brush up. They just wanted to get something in writing to have available to lean on them if the other guys fall through in meeting the obligation. And it's a business arrangement. And these guys are learning some legal wellness in undergrad because I'm like, this is the real deal, guys. This is real money and it's really you. And they really want it from, they don't care who it comes from. They just want it. And if it's you, they don't care. So you got to be really vigilant rather, about what you sign and why. And
Mm.
that's where I got involved. And I'm teaching them these lessons as we kind of navigate. And this is the second pillar. This is the asking questions and reading your contracts. And nobody ever does it. Like they don't, because it's boring.
Yeah. It's boring, but it's also, like I mentioned earlier, it can be very intimidating. And, one of the tools that we see out there that I don't know if you want to call it leveling the playing field. I think that that's uh, somewhat misleading, Danny, is the use of AI. So I will admit to you, I know people that take their contracts and put it into AI and be like, translate this for me. But there are a lot of limitations to that as well. Can you talk to us a bit about that before we get too excited about AI being our legal interpreter? What are some of the pitfalls of that?
Well, I think, scares a lot of us just kind of fundamentally. The problem with AI, at least so far as I'm concerned, I think is what a lot of people share. It's just kind of freaky. And I think conceptually, a lot of us have the same hang up. If you're really young, you don't know any different from like real life and real people
Mm,
cracking codes and working through things and doing research for you. You're kind of bought into AI. But I can tell you, like in the law context, some lawyers have even begun relying exclusively on AI to write legal submissions called briefs to courts. And they screw up. They have these hallucinations and they make up case citations and holdings from cases. And that gets found out. And lawyers get sanctioned routinely, like dollars, lots of dollars from courts. They get fined for doing this because AI is not an excuse for putting the work in. It just isn't. So as it concerns channeling a contract through AI to maybe break it down for you, maybe that's one thing. Is it an excuse for reading the contract altogether? I don't think so. I wouldn't do it. Um, I know they're hard and they're onerous and they're crippling, but you kind of have to put the work in if you want to get the result out of it. But I'll tell you this too, like one of the system is set up to discourage you
Mm.
from reading your contracts. We talked a little bit ago about just the click through and the click through agreements where you're going through and through and through initial, or you've got to initial before you can get through. That's what it is. Either you go to the end and you just initial, or you have to click through and attest to having read them all, and then you initial. And that's second version is designed to suggest that you actually read things, even though you didn't read them just the same. And it's really discouraging to read this stuff when you're being pushed through a contract. Thing is, though, to the extent you even can read these things, like let's say you go to get a new cell phone and you're presented with this long contract and it's got all these terms in it. You don't understand them, but to the extent you do, you might not like one of them, like forced arbitration. If I have a problem, I don't want to have to go to private arbitration. I want to go to court. I have a Seventh Amendment right to a jury trial. I want to be able to exert my rights, and they're not letting me. It doesn't seem fair. I'm going to X this out and initial it and have the high school kid at the cell phone store initial it too, that chance. Not only will they never do it, but if you walked and went across the street to the other competitor store, they have it too. Those are called adhesion contracts. They're take it or leave it contracts.
Mm.
You can't change them, and everybody's got the same awful terms in them, so you're kind of stuck. So my thinking is read them only to know what it is you're signing so that you have some peace of mind. Such as, for instance, there's a case involving this guy in New York. He rented a bike, like a rideshare bike, and he hit a curb, cracked his head, had all this terrible, injury to his skull and brain, and he wanted to sue the rideshare operator. And there was a clause in the contract that said it was a liability waiver that said, we're not on the hook for any of this stuff. It's on you if you're hurt. And that held up and he lost. What could he have done had he read that ahead of time? Nothing to change the terms, but could he have worn a helmet because he knew that if he hurt his head, he was going to be self-pay for all the injuries? Yes, he could. So that's an example of some kind of mini hack you could bake into what to do if you read a contract that you can't change.
Makes a lot of sense. And it also makes a lot of more sense, right? To work with a lawyer who can explain like what your options are, right? Like, or how to kind of hack it, to use your vernacular.
But
Um,
also, you're not going to like consult a lawyer as you're walking down, Fifth Avenue to pick up a bike at a ride share. You're just kind of like in real time doing your stuff. But if you have these principles kind of baked in ahead of time, like, oh, Danny said it's a pretty good idea to read contracts, and maybe there's something in here I'm not going to like, or I can work around because if something happens, I want to take steps to avoid like real fallout.
mhm.
That's the kind of like being proactive approach
Yeah.
I think people need rather than just click, click, click on the bike, hit your head, yourself pay for $100,000 in medical injuries.
For
Damages.
sure. I mean, you actually, this is really illuminating too, Danny, because how many times are we asked to sign a contract of some kind? I mean, like I download an app and I've basically signed a contract, which they're giving me the terms. Do I accept them? I don't read them. Who
All the
reads them,
time.
right? And you're constantly like, okay, yes, you have to weigh the risks, of course, but I think what I'm hearing from you is like what you want to try to do is just prepare people to understand a little bit better what questions to kind of ask or what things to look for before there's a problem.
You're totally right. You're not going to change stuff in the contract. You're not going to not do the contract. You're just going to know what it says so that you have some clue. Like, let's say you join a health club and there's a liability waiver that says we're not on the hook if you hurt yourself. You slip on the floor, locker, maybe that's your fault because you weren't wearing shower shoes, who knows? But locker door falls on your head because the guy didn't fix it adequately. I mean, those clauses might not hold up as a matter of law because they're just a little too onerous, a little too one-sided. But at least you know that you're going to be on the hook if something happens. So you might want to exercise a little extra level of vigilance as you go about your workout, that sort of thing. Because
Makes
it adds up.
sense.
I mean, that's like real. And there are cases on that where people are self-pay, like the bike share case. That is not made up at all. It's Corwin versus New York bike share out of the Supreme Court of New York. And the guy was self-pay for his head injuries.
Wow. I completely believe it. I mean, just in terms of on the personal side of things, the business side of things, it is important to take the time to kind of read through, have an understanding, because what I'm kind of hearing without you necessarily saying it is that these are really put into place to define accountability. And like, when are you accountable? When am I accountable? And for what? Right. And that can, that can be a big deal and certainly have a lot of not just legal implications, but financial implications too. So for business owners, but really for anyone, right? Do you recommend then in this case having a lawyer on retainer, or are there other smart and affordable ways to access legal advice?
I think it depends on your resources and the scale of your business. If you got a big business, if you're like, you're in Cincy, if you're P&G, you got lawyers. I mean, I know the lawyers. I mean, they're friends of mine. You got them on retainer and they handle everything and they're there like that if you need them. If you're like a smaller shop like me, where I have an issue here, an issue there, I'm a solo guy. I don't need a retained lawyer. I call my lawyer Jay, who's the best, and he helps me out, and I'll get a bill, or I won't get a bill, or whatever.
Mm.
So I think it's a matter of your function of your needs and your scale. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have one because there's just so many consequences that come with stuff. And you know what? Maybe 9 out of 10 times nothing evolves from something you do, but that one time it does, it like overwhelms the other nine that it didn't. And I really think an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I would rather be smart and safe and have peace of mind before I do stuff. And I meant very literally, I've not done one single business related thing in the 12 years I've had my own shop without calling Jay. He's the Jay Fagus, best lawyer I know, knows everything. And I would not do anything without his counsel and blessing.
Super smart, super smart. I know you yourself, we just tooted Jay's horn, but let's go back and toot yours for a moment too. You
Okay.
teach law at some major universities. You've got your own business. I want to talk a little bit about your book as well too. Can you tell us more about your new book coming out this fall, October 21st? What can people expect? What are they getting in the book that they can't get anywhere else?
Okay, sure. The book idea kind of evolved from not just practicing, but for 13 years, I was chairing the American Bar Association's National Institute on Class Actions, which
Mm.
is the biggest, most highly respected, well-attended class action program for federal judges and professors and lawyers. And it kind of got me in front of people and gave me some real stand-up skills and some chops, which I continue to hone through teaching. It's really that helped get me to get some teaching jobs. I did start teaching at Columbia Law School. And when that was a bit of a schlep from Cleveland, where I was living at the time, because I was going to New York every week, which was cool for the first couple of weeks. But after, week 8, 9, 10, it's like, you could have it. I mean, it was with the delays and the weather, it was ugh. So I needed something closer. So now I'm at Michigan and Ohio State, and it keeps me out in front of people, delivering a message of kind of legal aptitude and accessibility. Now these are law students, of course, but they're still young people who need to know and understand from these sorts of concepts. Channel through, of course, a law degree, but conceptually the same as we're discussing. So all that kind of came together to help support this Your Lovable Lawyer brand, which I launched maybe like 4 years ago. And I put a bunch of videos together to help support different evergreen topics like what to do in an auto accident, like I mentioned, traffic court, um, forced arbitration clauses. We talked about those a little bit. I also talked about a lot of COVID related issues because it was in during the height of COVID, like, oh boy, I can't even remember the COVID issues anymore. I'm glad for that. But
Yeah.
also really kind of pop cultural issues, the law channeled through them. Like a good example would be Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. That wasn't a domestic abuse case. It was a defamation case. Now, had Amber Heard known what the elements of defamation were under Virginia law and what she shouldn't say, it would have saved her a lot of hardship and millions of dollars. But she didn't. She just fired something off on the WashingtonPost.com website. And next thing you know, she's in court. I have a chapter in the book circling back on online issues like defamation, doxing, voyeurism, and so on. So I mentioned a moment ago the three pillars of legal wellness. One is to avoid a victim mentality. The second is read your contract and ask questions. The third is you can't go wrong with your mouth shut. My grandma told me that all the time. And that really taps into this whole online space where everybody thinks they can get behind their keyboard, be a basement keyboard warrior, and pop off and stay out of trouble because they're somehow insulated. Well, they're not. All the protests last year on campus, people thought I got a First Amendment right to say whatever I want. That is not how the First Amendment works. That's a chapter in the book too. So what is this book? So I put all these thoughts and themes and concepts together into one set. It's called Your Lovable Lawyer's Guide to Legal Wellness: How to Fight Back Against a World That's Out to Cheat You. And it drops October 21st, published by Savia Republic, who published Mel Robbins' last book, by the way, and Simon & Schuster's distributing it. And it talks all about these concepts. There are about 22 chapters, and each one is devoted to a different episode. We've talked about a bunch of them, but there are a bunch more. Why you need a will and a trust, elder abuse, wage and hour claims, how to, not get screwed when you're an employee, and what your employer can and can't do, and what you should and shouldn't do as an employer. I mean, I take it from both sides. Let's be fair. So that's coming out soon. I hope it sells, knock on something here. But what I'm trying to also do to support it is since I've done a lot of speaking and teaching, I poured myself into the keynote circuit, and I want to deliver a message of legal wellness to, I think, the most essential audience I could identify, which to my mind is college students, because they're out of the house, they're adults, they're doing their own contracts, they're clicking through their own deals online, they're getting their own credit cards, they're signing their own leases like my son's friends, and they need to know what to do and what not to do and how to protect themselves out there in the real world. So I put together a real life 101 keynote address, and I'm pitching it to colleges now to share with their student bodies across the country. I'm trying to line up gigs, so I'm trying to really hit both the written and the spoken word part of the legal wellness space.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's so huge. Look at you doing your PR for your book. That's awesome. I love that. I love that you've really honed in on that niche too, because I think, I can remember now, it's been eons ago, being a college student. That's probably also a very impressionable time of our lives as well. And you can't afford a lawyer fresh out of college for every little thing. So kudos to you to really empowering people with legal wellness. And on that note, I know we just have a couple minutes left. I would love to know from you too, Danny, how are you protecting your wellness, whether it be legal or otherwise? Are you someone that spends a lot of time? Do you have a lot of time, I should say, to kind of nurture and take care of yourself while you are out there changing people's lives with your knowledge?
Well, I'm trying. I'll tell you here. I'll tell you what's making it a little more challenging. All right, here she is.
Oh,
Louise,
guys, it's that dog.
This guy Josie. I want to do yoga today, but I don't see it happening because, unless I can do it in that window, and she's gonna take a nap after we're done, that might be when I go work out, whether it's that or something else. But that helps. I'm a little rabid. I'm a little worked up. I talk really fast, and I'm working on that. And my mom will be the first to agree that I talk fast, not that I'm working on it. And those are what I try to do to kind of keep it together because, wellness is such a hot area these days, and it's not just emotional wellness and it's not just financial, right? But it's legal. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize. I'm trying to elevate that a wellness bucket. And if you have all three components working for you, you can have the comfort, confidence, and peace of mind of knowing that things are going to be okay. Maybe you're not having a great day, but on the whole, things are pretty okay. When people ask you how you're doing, I say, yeah, today I'm doing okay. Because these days, there's nothing you can more sustaining than that. But that's okay too, because you string enough of those together with a little bit of emotional wellness, financial wellness, and legal wellness, and I think we'll all be okay.
100%. And keeping in mind, those things are absolutely connected. And really, it's about having a village. I call it my board. Who is my board, right? These are people who can advocate and have your back. And it's great to hear from you, Danny, that, folks have options and really good ones too, that they can empower themselves, whether it be in their business or their life. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Is there anything I didn't ask you about today that you'd like to share with us?
You might not have asked, but I told you everything I got. So we're good.
That's amazing.
We're so grateful. Thank you.
We're so grateful as well too. Where can people find you and connect with you online?
I'm at yourlovablelawyer.com, and on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and which which shouldn't be around by Supreme Court decree, but that's another legal issue. Yet I'm still leaning into it. And YouTube and every platform. I think those are all the platforms. I think I hit them all. So I'm out there.
That's enough. That's enough platforms. You got them. Awesome. Danny, great to see you. Thank you so much again. And book comes out October 21st. Can't wait to get it.
It's on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. Thank you so much for today. It was such a treat being with you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode deposited some useful advice and insights to help you grow your wealth. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations. You can find more resources, episode details, and updates at growyourwealthpodcast.com. And let's keep the conversation going on Instagram. Follow me at Grow Your Wealth Podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or takeaway from today's show. Until next time, remember, burnout is optional. Take care, and I'll see you next week.